Good morning on this Sunday, October 25th, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. A feisty debate among the candidates in Georgia's Senate race number 2. And the numbers tell the story. More than 2 million early voters have cast ballots in Georgia. Wow. And will Georgia's citizens arrest law soon be a thing of the past? Theron, Phil, Janelle, and Kathy are all here as we continue our social distancing. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
Believe it or not, a little over a week to go until Election Day, candidates in Georgia's second Senate race took to the virtual debate stage. The Senate debate was filled with jabs from Senator Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins, who both jockeyed over who aligns themselves more with President Donald Trump.
I'm proud to be the only U.S. senator with a 100% voting record with President Trump.
Loeffler can't get away with her own facts. 100% voting record with Trump. She voted for the NDAA, which President Trump said he would veto.
Much of the debate consisted of the two Republican candidates claiming they're the most conservative. Loeffler broke away from Collins for a time to ask Raphael Warnock to apologize for comments he made about police.
So I support law enforcement. They've come to my church many times. We work together. I think it's possible to appreciate the work that law enforcement members do and at the same time hold them accountable.
Collins and Loeffler are treating this jungle election like a Republican primary, trying to score a spot in a likely runoff with what's looking like Raphael Warnock. And Janelle, I want to start with you. We need to mention that you are the honorary co-chairwoman of the Loeffler campaign. But what did you think of the debate? It was bitter and it was nasty.
Yeah, you know, I actually was excited to just see a debate, period, because I knew that that's what it would probably come down to, being that there's so much kind of flying through the airways. But what I was most impressed by is that I felt like Senator Loeffler was able to get all of her her positions out as it relates to her platform, but she was also able to kind of hit Collins in the area where he talks about, you know, her as a woman and what she looks like, what she wears, and all those other things that doesn't even matter. She did have blows that landed with Collins as well as Warnock, and I thought that was a good thing.
Kathy, your thoughts. Do you think Reverend Warnock was able to get his message out on where he actually stands with defunding the police and those issues?
Well, I think so, and I think the contrast that you're seeing in how Reverend Warnock is running his campaign is that he's not having to be negative. He's got the space to be able to talk about who he is and what he cares about and what he's focused on, and I think he's doing a great job. He's a first-time candidate, and I think he's coming through loud and clear, and that shows in the polling.
And Phil, you know, I want to be fair to Doug Collins also. I want to get your take on his performance. I mean, you can tell he has experience. He's used to being on kind of this debate stage and in this profile. What did you think of his performance?
Well, I thought Doug Collins did a very good job, as also Warnock did, the Democrat, and so did Kelly Loeffler. I like debates. It was a brawl, yes. I think both Republican candidates, though, ought to be turning their fire toward Raphael Warnock and his negative comments against the police. He's called some of them thugs. We have this on tape from some of his fiery sermons. And also, you know, maybe Warnock ought to remember the name Sequoia Turner. That was the little 8-year-old girl that died in a no-go police zone right there in the middle of Atlanta, and that was the fault of Biden's favorite mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, and Warnock has not condemned that. But it was a good debate, and it did clarify where people stood on basic issues.
Theron, if you want to respond to Phil, and also just your thoughts on the debate overall.
I think that the debate was definitely spirited, and I think that Pastor Raphael Warnock ultimately accomplished what he needed to accomplish. As Kathy mentioned, he was able to really talk about the issues with death. He was also able to show the people of Georgia that he has the right qualifications, and he talked about a lot of Georgia values that I think people are going to resonate with. At a time where we know that based on polling and quite frankly what we feel on the ground, he's got an excellent chance of not only winning this race but also making it to the runoff. And as far as the attacks from Phil, my good friend always wants to sort of get on the show and really incite fear and to truly try to scare a lot of voters. And I think voters in Georgia were able to really hear from Raphael Warnock to say that he does not support defunding the police. He talked about how they came to his church. You mentioned, Lori, in your piece. And I think ultimately he'll have enough time to redefine himself to the Georgia voters when he makes it to the runoff.
Phil, I'll let you respond, but I also want to get your reaction to this. You're a big Georgia Bulldog fan, right? Most of us are on this show, I think. This week we saw an ad starring Herschel Walker supporting Kelly Loeffler, saying she's a game changer for Georgia. So what are your thoughts on the ad?
Well, whenever you get a popular celebrity that's promoting you, it doesn't hurt, and it probably helps in some areas. So yeah, that was a good ad with Herschel Walker. But back to my pal Theron, you know, we have to call it like it is. We have a crime problem in this state and in this country and in the city of Atlanta, the capital city of this state. And I want to see Democrats speak out more let's oppose a no-go police zone. Can we at least go with that? I think everybody's for reforming some police practices, but you know, for Warnock to beat up on the police. And Theron, we got the tapes.
Theron, respond for 20 seconds, and then I'll move on.
Yeah, I'll be quick, Lori. Listen, you know, clearly, Phil, one thing I know about you is that you spend a lot of time checking your sources. You know, we talked about that a lot. And if the tapes are out there, then produce them. But I think to come on this show and to basically sort of spread lies at a time where Pastor Warnock said on the debate stage that he's never said that. He talks about how he supports police officers that do the right thing, but he also thinks you can do that and have a conversation about police reform that many Republicans like you support as well.
Kathy, I want to move on here.
It's called flip-flopping. It's called flip-flopping.
Okay, we'll move on. Speaker Ralston, who is supporting Congressman Doug Collins, made some controversial comments about Senator Loeffler this week that did not sit well with a lot of women. He said that she's got a lot of money and married well. What do you think of those comments, and will they hurt Doug Collins?
Well, I don't think they're going to hurt Doug Collins, but I think that they were unfortunate. There's plenty of things that one could pick on Loeffler about, but you know, talking about marrying well and all that is unfortunate. I did think his comment about most folks still working on their first jet was a good one, so I'm going to have to give Speaker Ralston a little bit on that. I'm still working on my first jet, and you know, but I think that, you know, we need to sort of put female candidates, you know, on a level playing field when we're talking about issues.
Janelle, as I mentioned, you're honorary co-chair of the Loeffler campaign. I know you want to comment on what Speaker Ralston said.
Yeah, women shaming and wealth shaming is just really shameful within itself. But I think I speak for all women when I say that, you know, to ignore the fact that she's highly intelligent and that it was grit and tenacity that got her where she was and where she is. And I think that ignores a lot about her and ignores a lot about women in general. When to make a statement about, you know, her marrying well, that has nothing to do with her brain. So I think that just shows the ignorance that comes from, you know, some of our men counterparts that we need to continue to just push forward as women.
Phil, I want to switch over to Senate race number 1. Jon Ossoff said he was able to raise $2 million off of something that Senator Perdue said before the Trump rally last week when he was trying to pronounce Kamala Harris's name. Your thoughts on this?
Well, Jon Ossoff is a proven fundraiser, and I don't think anybody can take anything away from him on that one. I think with regard to the debate, again, it clarified really two views of the world and of the economy, and Ossoff pointed out a lot of things that the Democrat Joe Biden is for, and that is basically command and control of the economy by the government. And I think that Purdue obviously is for a balanced reopening. COVID, there were two different worldviews there. I'm like I say, I like debates. I thought it was good. Good for the Atlanta Press Club, by the way. You can click on the links and look at some of these debates if you want to. But I thought both, I'm trying to be objective, I thought both candidates did a good job, but I think that Purdue really introduced his worldview probably a little better.
Theron, just real quickly, I only have about 20 seconds. Just your thoughts on this whole name mispronunciation. Is this a big deal? Because the media sure made it a big deal.
Well, we got to call balls and strikes on this show. All right, so if you're going to, you know, try to contradict and sort of criticize what Speaker Ralston said and make it into a gender attack where he never ever said anything about her being a woman, then where's the Republican outrage with a U.S. Senator and David Perdue basically blatantly mispronouncing his fellow U.S. senator. I mean, we're talking about someone who is probably going to be the next vice president of the United States of America. That was more of an insult to a woman than what we're trying to allege that Speaker Ralston said. I just want to say this. I've known Speaker Ralston for a long time. He's not a sexist. And for the people that are trying to paint him as one, what it really was about, Lori, is what you said. We're in a very tough Republican primary. And Phil and Janelle knows this. Republican primaries in Georgia are brutal. And if she can't take it, then she probably are not ready what's going to happen in the runoff.
All right, we'll leave it there, everyone. Thank you. Wow. Coming up, voters continue to turn out in record numbers at the polls.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
We're heading into the last week of early voting, and more than 2 million Georgians have already cast ballots. Janelle, I'll turn to you. Any takeaways from these numbers?
Okay, so, well, for one, it shows that people's minds are made up, and I really believe that that's what it is. I know I looked at the whole new registrant list, and they said that over 50% of the people who registered were under 35. I'm interested to see how many of those people that came through that automated system, through the driver's license system, were at the age of 18 to 35, because I think that's what really, really matters. Because if that's the case, I know a lot of our 15-year-olds from 2016 are now voting in 2020. So I'm really interested to see what the outcome is and what the data shows after the election.
Kathy, let's talk about that. The AJC did a really deep dive into the nearly 1 million newly registered voters since 2016, the largest expansion group, as Janelle mentioned, those under 35 years old. The question is, Kathy, will these newly registered voters head to the polls, and will they help Democrats?
Oh, well, the helping Democrats part is undoubtedly they will help Democrats, because right now what we're seeing is that younger voters are trending toward Democrats. So I think that in and of itself is a good sign. Will they come out? That's a little bit on the iffy side, but I personally think what we are seeing them turn out in the early voting, and I think we're going to see them turn out for the rest of the week as we go into the final days of the election. But I think, young people, and that's 35 and younger, young people have a lot at stake in this election. They have career interruption because of COVID. They've got concerns that are more heightened, I think, about climate change, and well, it should be, and a lot of other issues, healthcare, that perhaps, maybe people in other generations are a little more balanced. Balance is not quite the right word I want to say, but I just think there's a lot at stake for younger people, and we're seeing it here and all over the country. So, yeah, I think after this is all over, the analysis will be that they did show up.
Farron, this week, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger says the technical issues in the first week of early voting have been resolved, resulting in much shorter lines. How do you think it has gone so far, Farron?
I think it's going well, but we still have a long way to go. As you know, Lori, I made the poll workers my winner last week and even weeks before that, because I think that they are working very, very hard to deal with the many, many challenges that they face in trying to make sure that people feel like their votes are being cast correctly and that it's secure. I want to see the Secretary of State continue to educate the public, working with the county officials, making sure that if there's any resources that they need to make sure it goes well. But I just want to encourage everyone to make sure that you continue to vote, and more importantly, if you go early vote, just really be patient, because I know that these folks are trying really hard to make sure that everything goes okay.
And Phil, we have to say Fulton County has done a much better job so far in this election compared to years past. Our fingers are crossed. But 23 out of 60 workers at the elections warehouse have tested positive for COVID-19. Do you think this is a cause for concern, especially when we're waiting on results on election night?
Well, it is cause for concern. I agree with that. But, life goes on. Like the president said, we have to balance fighting the disease and doing health protocols with moving along with life and in this case, a very important election. So, and I do agree with some of Theron's remarks. My wife and I voted at the Chastain Park early voting site in Atlanta, and it went very smoothly, and I have to praise them too. And I've heard reports really from all around the state, a lot better than we heard on June 9th during the primaries. So, and with regard to maybe some of Kathy's Kathy's comments, I'm glad that a lot of people are voting. I think we all should be. But I think the economy is going to be a big issue, and the fact that people want jobs, or they want to, if they're sheltering in place, they want to get back to work. If they can't work from home, that's a tough one. But it is a base election. I think we might all agree on that, as turning out the bases and then trying to sway whoever's undecided toward your candidate.
And speaking of swaying, Theron, you're on the Biden campaign team. Kamala Harris was in Atlanta energizing Democrats. How does her message play in Georgia, and can she attract rural voters?
Well, I'm so happy that Senator Kamala, and repeat that for Senator David Perdue, it's pronounced Kamala if he needs some help going forward. But Senator Harris was in Atlanta this week, and it shows you that Georgia is a battleground state. And more importantly, she spent a lot of time with young people, young students. She was at Morehouse College doing a very socially distant event with voter mobilization, encouraging people to go and vote. And so she's just a dynamic candidate, and I think that she plays very well all over Georgia, but particularly with women. And we know that we not only got to have our black women continue to show up and show out, but we need tremendous support for the moderate women voters that are in the white, Hispanic, and Asian community as well. And I think she definitely helps us motivate that sector of voters as well.
Janelle, last word on this.
Yeah, well, so for one, I just have to say, I think it's comical that Theron keeps pushing back on Perdue. I don't know where this sensitivity was when Joe Biden told me that I wasn't black. But I think it's hilarious that now we want to continue to be sensitive or all those things. But anyway, when it comes to Kamala being in Atlanta, I mean, obviously we have a lot of new voters, so there's a lot of attention that's going to be placed on this state. So I'm not surprised she's here. I'm interested to see how many people are wearing masks while sitting in their cars, though.
All right, that's the final word. Thanks, everybody. Coming up, there's a move to repeal Georgia's citizens arrest law. We'll discuss coming up after the break.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
Republican State Rep Chuck Frustration says if he's reelected, he'll introduce a bill to repeal Georgia's citizens arrest law, only allowing businesses and homeowners to detain people caught committing a crime. Janelle, this move also comes after the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery in Glenn County. What do you think about this move?
So, I thought that the citizens arrest law should have been addressed prior to the hate crime bill. But I'm interested to see what happens, because we have the left who's calling for a defunding of police. I know on the Biden platform, it's asking to limit the purchases of guns in a monthly period, as well as, I think, canceling out the ability to purchase any gun-related items over the internet. And so now you're taking our guns and you're defunding the police, and then I don't know how we're going to protect ourselves, right? So I'm interested to see what happens with that aspect of it as it relates to the citizens arrest law. But prior to this all coming out with Ahmaud Arbery, like I said, was definitely for looking into this law and making sure we tweak it so that what we saw in Glenn County doesn't happen again.
Kathy, is it time to tweak it or repeal it?
Well, I think we should repeal it. I don't think citizens ought to be in the business of detaining people. I think it's dangerous, and I think we need to let professionals do their work. I also think, with regard to our stand your ground law, we ought to be making some changes to that too. I think people do have the right to defend themselves, but I think we took out the requirement that you need to retreat if you can safely do so, and I think that's led to a lot of unfortunate incidents. So, hats off to Frustration for talking about this. He's in a very tough election, so he's trying real hard to look like a Democrat these days. And when things get tight, we'll welcome him over when he's ready.
All right, well, I want to switch gears. A follow-up story now to the tragic death of 8-year-old Sequoia Turner, who was shot and killed by armed protesters at the Wendy's where Rayshard Brooks was shot. Theron, let's start with you. Her parents plan to sue the city for $16 million. Mayor Bottoms, Police Chief Bryant, and City Council member Joyce Shepard are named in this potential lawsuit. What is your take on the pending lawsuit?
Well, Laura, you remember when this very tragic death happened, this murder happened, I was very quick to offer my condolences, and I think it was just horrific. I want to go on the record for saying that Sequoia Turner's life, number one, shouldn't have been lost. But more importantly, I think the folks being able to open carry at that particular location and just went on a little too long. As far as the lawsuit, listen, I can't talk about open litigation because, quite frankly, I think the city can't talk about it either because I think that the lawsuit is coming out and people are going to have to take it very seriously. But I do think going forward, life was lost. A little 8-year-old girl should have been alive right now, getting ready to go back to school or virtually learning. And I just sympathize with her family. And I just hope that the city of Atlanta and all of us have learned from this terrible situation.
Phil, let's get your reaction to this. It is nothing more. I mean, it's just tragic.
Well, it's also an outrage along with being a tragedy. Why was the little girl killed? It was a no police zone, and it was ordered by Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms after the Wendy's was burned down. And you had armed vigilantes blocking public streets. They were harassing passersby. We know this, it's documented. They were actually shootings. Civil rights attorneys are representing the Turner family, and they're making a very good point. The mayor and the police chief knew this was going on, and orders were given for the police to stand down. No wonder the little girl was killed. I think that the mayor needs to say that there will be due process for police officers and no-go zones will not be tolerated in the city of Atlanta or anywhere.
Kathy, I want to get your last word on this because you are the former council president in the city of Atlanta. The murder rate in the city of Atlanta, we're now at 116 murders this year. If you compare that to all of last year when it was a total of 99 people murdered, what do you make of these numbers and how do we go forward?
Well, I don't know. It's a very difficult situation. It's occurring around the country. Atlanta's not unique in this situation, although when it's happening in your town or in your city, then, it feels very, very personal and very, very scary. I think we're seeing such a challenging time right now. It's challenging for police. It's challenging for citizens. There's some desperation out there. There's just an awful lot going on. We're seeing suicide rates go up. We're seeing, we're seeing trends in violence that are not good and that are born of the situation that we're in. So I personally think it's really time for the mayor to stay focused on the city of Atlanta and get about the search for a permanent police chief and start working in a very open and transparent way to to really get our hands around the public safety issue here in Atlanta.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone. Coming up, we'll have winners and losers. Stay tuned.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
Our favorite segment. Janelle, we'll start with you today.
Okay. Well, kudos to First Lady Marty Kemp and the Kemp administration. They're my winner in the state. They launched a new hotline to alert authorities when instances of human and sex trafficking, and I thought that was absolutely amazing. And I do have one loser this week, and I really hate to do this, but my loser this week is Representative Darshawn Kendrick for thinking that when the president mentioned coyotes, that he was referring to actual animals carrying babies across the border in a recent tweet. We just have to do our research, but I have to make her my loser this week.
All right, Kathy, over to you.
Just a reminder to everybody that the last day of early voting is this Friday, the 30th, so please make a plan and get out there and vote. You don't want to wait till the last minute. I want to congratulate Leadership Atlanta on becoming a sponsor of Kimberly Elementary School in Southwest Atlanta. Theron and I are classmates, and our colleagues are helping get coats for kids that need them, and when schools open back up again, we'll be more involved down there. My loser is Senator David Perdue. He's now sort of backpedaling on his support for Trump, and he's joining a chorus of senators around the country who are in tight races who are saying, oh, well, they whispered their objections to the president, but they didn't bother to make those things public. So I think he gets an X for that.
All right, Theron, over to you. We have about 90 seconds in the show.
All right, my first winner is going to be the City of Brookhaven and Mayor Ernst. Lori, this week they used some CARES Act money to pay off overdue Georgia Power bills for about 2,446 residents and also 110 businesses. In full disclosure, I represent the City of Brookhaven at the legislature, and also want to make the Atlanta Falcons a winner for getting a win, and also just want to thank the Braves for an outstanding season.
Absolutely. All right, Phil, got about a minute left.
Okay, I hope a winner is going to be Natalie Payne. She's the district attorney over in the Augusta Judicial Circuit. She signed a pledge, rightly so, that she would not support defunding the police. And her Democrat opponent, and not all Democrats do this, but said he would not sign such a pledge. That is sad. I hate that all too many Democrats are just down on the police. You can be for police reform, but for defunding, that's terrible. That's it.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, my winner this week is Venture Atlanta, because they match small businesses with venture capitalists, and they pulled off an amazing virtual event. It was really something to watch these small business owners and these entrepreneurs make their pitches. So congratulations on a great event. And thank you, everyone, so much for watching us. We will see you again next week. Bye-bye.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.